Well, good evening, everyone. This is John Craig, and yes, it's another edition of Walking in Spirit and Truth, and broadcasting here from our beautiful studios at Life of Worship Ministries in Amarillo, Texas. Actually, I'm just having fun. All right, I'm just having fun. Actually, it's kind of weird because my background actually looks more real than I do. Isn't that something? So you're just seeing like a hologram, like just an image of a likeness of who I am, and it's not really me. It's artificial intelligence, right? Okay, I'm just kidding. It looks kind of weird though. It's interesting that the video card can produce a good looking background, but it won't produce a good image through the camera. Go figure. All right, so we've got some things to talk about tonight. Enoch. We've got another edition of Enoch, and I think that's it's been quite a journey. We're calling it a journey, an adventure, because it's really not like a scholarly look at Enoch, but rather kind of tying in different things that we've known already as believers pre coming into our understanding of Torah, and so putting those pieces together, so like in other words, the things that you learn in the church, you realize that so many things that we know in the church and stuff is like what is captured in Enoch. And yet we're finding things that are inside Enoch that it's like, oh, that gives lots of revelations. You know, how many times do we think about it and we learn an idea or a concept and it was like, okay, I got the idea or the concept, but it's in these apocryphal books that actually bring the revelation, the why, the how, the foundation to it. And then all of a sudden the dots connect. I always like to say it this way. When I came in to the understanding of my Hebraic roots of our faith, and I was like, I'm crossing a river or being out Torah and just like really digging into it and realizing all the wonderful things that are within the Torah. And that it was like I'm crossing a river and I can see the other side and I can see a pathway to the other side, but I'm jumping between one stone to another stone to the other stone to stay out of the water, right? And then what happens when we study Torah and we start keeping the feast and all that fun stuff? It's like a beautiful bridge forms, and we're no longer kind of jumping between stones, kind of figuring out, I don't know how these dots connect, or I see some of the connections of the dots, but I'm going to get to the other side. But the path isn't as beautifully clear as following Torah. But one of the things about these books that we've been looking, like when we were looking at four Esdras, or two Esdras, or four Ezra, and we went through that whole book, and it was quite a study. And even Bel and the Dragon, and Tobith, and I'm trying to think of maybe another book that's kind of typically not in one of the books that we study all the time, right? Because it's outside of the quote official canon of Scripture, and yet we learn so much, and that's what I'm seeing here, and I'm learning some things, and I think it's really cool. So I hope you're learning some things, but more on the side of it's an adventure, because Enoch is like he's telling us this story, and we here's our image of Enoch. Enoch walked with Yah, and then he was not. So Enoch must be one of the ones that's going to be the two witnesses that are going to come back, and you know that's how we understand Enoch, right? Does anybody have a greater understanding of Enoch other than that story? Oh, he had some type of dealing with the giants. Oh, he was pre-flood. Oh, I mean, very, very little until we start reading in the book of Enoch, and then we start seeing a whole bunch of other principles. Well, tonight, if we can get there, he actually starts talking about the principle of the calendar. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. So we're going to get there. We'll talk about that, and several other things as well. So anyway, let's see. Enoch. Well, we've been working through some parts. Oh my goodness, we're really moving along. We're really jumping through the chapters. We left off last week, I think, right around chapter 66, and in the book of Enoch. And let me just put a quick plug in for Life of Worship Ministries, by the way. Life of Worship's Amarillo, Texas. And we'd love for you to come join us. If you ever come back, come by, come through. I was saying, come back, Lou and Linda. Just come back to Amarillo and just move back. We'd love to have you. And so, all right. So Life of Worship. We have a gathering on Shabbat and we meet at noon. Right now we're meeting at our house. It's actually been pretty cool. And we're having praise and worship and some time for ministry. And it's really kind of a unique time. We even have it opened up enough. We got some circle dancers going on and during worship, and then time for message. Well, that's our encounter service. That's at 3:00. Yeah, 3:00. We're having an encounter service. So we do have the praise and worship at that point in time, and then followed by a message and ministry as the Father leads. And so this last week was really unique. The presence of Yahweh was really in the house. But before that, that's 3 p.m. Central Time, and then so I'm kind of going backwards, but that's okay, right? And before that, we have Torah study at noon Central Time, and we gather around. It's like a home group. It's kind of fun. But yeah, it's just a temporary until we move into another place. We're still looking at all of our different options. And but in the meantime, kind of enjoying this part of the journey. But doesn't mean the bills didn't stop coming, because we have everything in storage. So we got those bills, and I think we're really close. I think we're really close in getting all of the final bills updated and taken care of. The last bit of utilities coming in, letting us know how much they are, and it's done over there. And then from there, then it's about building up what we need in order to put down a deposit and all the utility stuff and everything we need to be able to move into a new place when that takes place. So we are enjoying it while it is. And in the meantime, you get to see this great background. I actually thought about doing a different background, but so that's why I'm wearing a red hat, because the red hat actually works better than a black hat. Okay, sorry guys, I'm just following a rabbit trail. Enoch. Oh yeah. Some of y'all are just been really faithful in being wonderful prayer partners and financial partners, and blessing the ministry and helping us take care of those bills that we have, and helping us, be able to set aside, take care of, catch up on the things we need to get caught up in, and build up our coffers so that we can really move forward. And also, we also want to have things that are set back. So when we have a guest that comes in from out of town, say like Eddie Chumney maybe, and we're still looking forward to him coming, that we want to be able to bless him. So we do that type of thing. If you would like to give, you can go to our Life of Worship Amarillo.org YouTube channel, not our YouTube channel, but our website. And on our website, if you're looking on a regular computer or a laptop or something, at the top on our website, there's a bunch of tabs. One says donate. Just click on that donate. It opens up. You'll see a donate button, and it'll take you over to PayPal, and you're able to give online that way through your, from your PayPal account, or if you want to use a debit card or something like that, you can do that. A debit card, credit card, it'll take it. Or you can go to our website also for our physical address, and you can mail in a love gift or an offering, tithe. Any of that works. Just wanted to say, here's some options for you. And we certainly appreciate that very, very much. If you're using a device like a smartphone or a pad, there's I think it's the drop-down menu, and you hit the drop-down menu, the 3 lines of the sandwich thing, hit that 3 lines, and it'll open up a menu, and then follow that down. It says donate. Click on that, and then it opens up to that page, the same page that was on the laptop or the desktop type of computer. Anyway, that's it. All right, we're going to move over to Enoch, and I think we jumped into chapter 66 last week. I don't know if we got completely through that. Forgive me if I'm repeating anything. I know we got through 65 because we talked about the voice. The voice shifted from Enoch telling us a story to to the first person Noah, who is telling us a story. So this is something very interesting, and then some thoughts occurred to me. So let's go to chapter 66, and now Noah is telling his discussion and what he's learning, and even these angelic encounters that he's having after his meeting with Enoch over in chapter 64. And so in 66, verse 1, in those days, and we remember what we talked about in those days, in this day, in that day. Sometimes it's talking about in the past. Sometimes it's referring to in the moment, in the days of now. And sometimes it's referring to like the day of Yah. And so we have to look at it in context to that, or in context to maybe the day by which prophecy will be fulfilled or is coming to fulfillment. And so those are some different thoughts that I have for you on that. But in those days, the word of Elohim came to me and said, so here he's really kind of talking in the days that these things were happening to me, the word of Yah spoke to me. So he's kind of talking in the past, as if maybe he's talking, I don't know. We don't know. We don't know when he wrote it. Is it still pre-flood when he's talking about this? Is it while he's on the ark? Is it after the ark landed and he's out of the ark and he's telling a story? He might be like reminiscing with his family. In those days, the word of Elohim came to me and said, Noah, behold, your lot has ascended up to me, a lot void of crime, a lot beloved and upright. And now, then, the angels are making a wooden structure. But when they proceed to this, I will put my hand upon it and guard it. So he's reminiscing, and I always kind of think of it as in reminiscing. You're kind of sitting around the campfire, telling the family about what happened to you in the days before the flood. You know, what was it like? Don't you ever think about that? You talk to grandparents. What was it like back then? What was it like in the 30s during, my great grandparents and my grandparents, they went through the Great Depression, the Dust Bowl, all of that. They lived in Oklahoma. So what was it like? What did you do? Well, Terry's not with us tonight. Hopefully she'll pick it up on the archive. But did you have a grandmother or a great grandmother? They even saved aluminum foil. And when the Ziploc bags came out, it's like they would put their sandwich in it, they would put something in it, stick it in the fridge, they'd empty it on the next meal or whatever, and then they would go take it and they would wash it in the sink and reuse that Ziploc bag. How many of us in the chat, give me a sign there in the chat. How many of you save your Ziploc bags, wash them out, let them dry, and then reuse them again? Because that'll tell me how close and how connected you were to someone that endured the Great Depression, or the part of the country, perhaps. I don't know. It's very interesting. Luann, you do that. See, I knew there would be somebody in there, because typically, it's like, it's one and done. This Ziploc, I've used it for my sandwich and I'm going to throw it away. But that's very frugal. That's a really frugal person, and a lot of people, not just cheap, no, but a lot of people do that. But we think about that, we reminisce, and we have those connections. Tell us really what was it like in that day. And in verse 2, now then the angels are making a wooden structure, and when they proceed, but when they proceed to this, I will put my hand upon it and guard it. I think it's really interesting. Did you ever think? Linda said, I don't wash them, but I'll reuse them for bread and dry ingredients. Well, see, you could do that too. Because if it's not like soiled or anything, but nevertheless. Okay. So, did you ever think that the angels would build the ark? I mean, we read over in the book of Genesis that Noah built the ark, and it took him 100 years. So that's why, we speculated before during the Torah portion when we were talking about Noah and the building of the ark, that was there something going on that assisted him. When you think about like the fallen angels, and the fallen angels assisted mankind in learning the dark arts, sorceries, and working with metals and herbs and crossing species and all sorts of different things like that. And why wouldn't y'all allow and even assign not the fallen angels but the good angels to also be to assist Noah? I mean, why not? And so maybe so. Or I mean, he could have given him just Noah just a supernatural download, and he would have, here's the plans, and drop some great blueprints for it, and see those trees over there, we're going to start knocking those down, and then they create the boards from that, and they're using primitive tools. Or are they? I mean, for example, why is it that there are in the hieroglyphics and in the carvings and that they have found in caves and even in the ancient structures that they have found in the jungles of India and in South America and all that, and you have these objects that are carved in like the Incas and the Aztecs and some of those other different native, what we call native people that were in Central America, and you look at their ancient buildings. I'm trying to think of the ones that were down there in Chichen Itza, where the big pyramids are in Mexico, and the carvings that are on there. Why would they have carvings of like spaceships? I mean, where would they get a picture of that? Where would those come from? And how ancient are those pyramids? Are those pyramids pre-flood? I mean, think about that. And then, or did those ancient civilizations, did they build them themselves? I mean, you look at the pyramids in Egypt. Is there any possible way that mankind could have made those, where each one of those stones had to be cut in a particular way where they would all fit together perfectly, and build such an incredible structure? And according to history, is the pyramids in Egypt, they were covered with limestone. They were smooth and brilliant when the sun hit them. They're polished off. And it was the Muslims who took off the sides of the pyramids and then used them in their palaces. So it's very interesting, and I just kind of think about that. But in the engravings, in many of the ancient architecture, you get pictures, and even in the writings and different scrolls and art and that they have found, is that you get pictures, and we even get pictures of like the flying carpets. Well, in the legends of the flying carpets, well, where do they get that from? Is that from some type of ancient technology that was lost pre-flood or during the flood, and then everything had to start over again? And what I'm trying to say is Enoch or Noah may not have been as primitive in what he had before the flood as maybe as opposed to after the flood. I mean, did you ever think about that? So anyway, those are some really, really interesting ideas and some thoughts. Tell me what you think on that. I'd like to hear it. Also, so notate in the chat. I mean, I'm just brainstorming here because there's so much we don't know about pre-flood times, and maybe this is something, not that it's really going to be setting any type of doctrinal understanding or to establish a particular amount of true biblical history that we really need to know, but I always just want to think about that. And so, but the key thing is, he says, I will put my hand upon it and guard it. So before the flood came, y'all protected the ark. During the flood, y'all protected the ark. I think it's both. And I will put my hand upon it, guard it. The seed of life shall arise from it. And so this is a promise now. This is a promise given to Noah. It's about the Genesis 6:18 thing, that he's promising Noah that you're going to have good seed and to be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth, just like the same commandment that was given to Adam and Mrs. Adam. And it says, the seed of life shall rise from it. The change will take place, that the dry land shall not be empty. I will establish your seed before me forever and ever, and the seed of those who dwell with you on the surface of the earth. They shall be blessed and multiplied in the presence of the earth in the name of Yahweh. And they shall confine those angels who disclosed impiety in that burning valley, which at first my great grandfather Enoch showed me in the west, where there was a mountain of gold and silver and of iron, of fluid and metal and of tin. And I'm going to stop right there. We'll pick up in verse 5 here in a second. Now, I had a thought while I was reading this, because this past week's Torah portion was we did Noah in 2 increments at Life of Worship. We did a part 1 and a part 2. So this past Shabbat we did part 2, and we were talking about Nimrod. Well, and I was thinking about this because here is Noah, and sitting around the fire telling his family about what's going on and what happened, Grandpa, and he's telling them, and Noah has 3 sons: Japheth, Shem, and Ham. Great grandson? Was it the great grandson of Ham? Ham, we say Ham. Ham. He was Nimrod. So Nimrod could very well have known Noah, but he would have certainly known the stories. He certainly would have understood the origins. He would have understood that there was a flood. He would have understood the purpose of the flood, the reason of the flood, and then why was Nimrod like he was? Why was Nimrod, the son of Ham? I'm right on that. I think I am right. No, I'm going to check that out. So why would Nimrod be so interested? He was considered to be like the first emperor, the first king of all the earth. And if Noah is telling this story, and all the descendants are telling the story of Noah and the promise, this covenant that Yah makes with Noah to go and replenish the earth, then my question is this, is why, what was Nimrod thinking? Was Nimrod actually thinking that I will establish your seed before me forever and ever, and the seed of those who dwell with you on the surface of the earth? It would be out of Noah, and out of one of his lines would come the Messiah, right? And this lineage of kings, and Nimrod probably having the same type of characteristics as Esau, or maybe Esau has the same type of characteristics as Nimrod. Very well could have. But nevertheless, I'm thinking, well, could be thinking, if I establish my kingdom and I rule over the earth with an iron hand and pull down the power of the gods, pull down the favor, because he knows about the dark. He would certainly know about the dark world, the dark arts, the occult powers, the supernatural, supernatural by any other means other than through Yah, right? I mean, where would he know that from? Because they would talk around the campfires, and they would talk about the legends of old and the angels that came down. And could he be having supernatural encounters with the angelic, where we studied out and have connected dots that Nimrod was a Gibor, he was mixed in his DNA, and it was also said, one of the legends that we had heard was that Nimrod also had the coat of Adam, which was said to have had a certain amount of supernatural elements to it. And then how would he have gotten it? Why would he have gotten? Did Ham steal it from his father and then passed it on from there? And somehow Nimrod got a hold of it. So I'm looking over in Genesis, and I want to see where on the descendants, Ham, and the sons of Ham were Cush, Mitzrayim, Put, and Canaan. And yeah, Cush became the father of Nimrod. So, yep, so grandfather Ham, and in his lineage. So anyway, I had to get that right. I just didn't want to say something that was wrong. And I want lineages I lose track of. I just lose track of names. So I think it's very interesting to think about that, is that he may think it, well, I will establish my line. And out of my line will come the ultimately the line that lives forever and ever. I think that, who knows? I mean, there seems to be an argument there. Maybe not, but maybe so. Nevertheless, going on, so we read about this thing about, and they shall confine those angels who disclose impiety in that burning valley, which at first my great-grandfather Enoch showed me in the west, and where there was a mountain of gold and silver and iron, of fluid metal and of tin. I beheld that valley, in which there was great perturbation, a lot of earthquakes type of stuff going on, a lot of shaking going on over there, and the waters were troubled. And when all this was affected from the fluid of mass fire and troubled them in that place, there arose a strong smell of sulfur. Where do we kind of think about the smell of hell is the smell of sulfur, which became mixed with the waters, and the valley of the angels who had been guilty of seduction burned underneath its soil. Through that valley also rivers of fire were flowing, in which those angels shall be condemned, who seduce the inhabitants of the earth. And in those days shall these waters be to kings, to princes, to the exalted, and to the inhabitants of the earth, for the healing of the soul and body, and for judgment of the Ruach. So, in those days, so here we have Noah talking about in those days, right? And Canaan have stolen the garments of Adam when he went to see Noah naked. I was actually kind of thinking that maybe that's why he was cursed, as opposed to Ham. It's a really good idea. I mean, it's a really interesting thought. I want to know. People with inquiring minds want to know. Okay, so I'm really thinking about this valley here, and it's interesting that it's mountains of gold and silver, of iron, of fluid metal, and of tin. Fluid metal, I think of mercury, like fluid metal. That's what I would think of, and of tin. But the other thing that I'm thinking is, like, at that time, was it like there was an opening to hell right there? I mean, was it like a major a major crack in the crust of the earth that literally goes down to hell, to Sheol or Hades, however you want to call it. It doesn't really matter to me. We're all on the same page talking about that. And because there's this strong smell of sulfur, and it is a fluid mass of fire. So I'm thinking about volcanic rivers that are flowing, and they're on the earth, and they're underneath the surface of the earth. And then it talks about these angels who are under the surface of the earth, and they're in this fire. And this is where they've been condemned because they seduce the inhabitants of the earth. And then it goes on talking about the kings and the princes, the exalted. We talked about them last week as well, and to the inhabitants of the earth. And it says, for the healing of the soul and the body, and for the judgment of the Ruach. So the judgment of their spirits. And their spirits, their Ruachot, shall be full of lust, that they may be judged in their bodies, because they've denied Yahweh Sabaoth, and they perceive their condemnation day by day. They believe not in this name. So there it is. I mean, the bottom line is that kings, princes, exalted, and the inhabitants of the earth are all come under the same judgment, the judgment of the Spirit, because of what they did in the flesh. I mean, that's pretty much what it says. And because they denied Yahweh Sabaoth and Yahweh of hosts, Lord of hosts, Yahweh of hosts, because they denied him, they denied his name, and they believed not in his name. I mean, it's just really sad. And then, but he gives this description, and it's kind of it's small, but Noah's given the same type of description that Enoch is telling him, and Enoch gave us that description before Noah ever showed up, and here Noah shows up, and Enoch showed him this valley, and so he has this firsthand encounter, and he knows that the fallen angels have been assigned there in judgment. I just think that's very interesting that we're given another perspective here. And verse 13, no, let's go to verse 10. And as the inflammation of their bodies shall be great, so shall their spirits, ruachot, undergo a change forever. For no word which is uttered before Yahweh Sabaoth shall be in vain. In other words, Yah hears everything. I mean, that were some of the testimonies that we talked about at Sukkot and even after Sukkot, that specifically there's certain things that we may even say a prayer under our breath, or it's even in our mind, but it's specifically spoken in this little prayer. We just lift up the Most High, and he hears specifically those words, and will even repeat those words back to us with the answer. I talked about my ring and the supernatural finding of my ring 110 miles from Amarillo. There's like no way. There's no way it could have just been around on the grass. That Andy and I would have looked down right at the proper moment, the proper time, and seen it before we just backed the truck in and hooked up the trailer when it was sitting right in front of the trailer. I mean, how does that happen? But think about the words we say, the words that are not in our head. So you got to think, well, we got to really watch our thoughts, because if Yahweh's listening to those little thoughts and those little prayers, those little concerns, those little things, and then he answers specifically by what we were just pondering upon, then how much more about our thoughts that he's also, well, we would be ashamed that he would be listening to those as well. And here it says, for no word which is uttered before Yahweh Sabaoth shall be in vain. Judgment has come upon them because they trusted in their carnal revelry and denied Yahweh Sabaoth. In those days shall the waters of that valley be changed, for when the angels shall be judged, then shall the heat of those springs of water experience an alteration. And when the angels shall ascend, the waters of the springs shall again undergo a change. So wait a minute. And when the angel shall ascend, the waters of the spring shall again undergo a change and be frozen. What? I was trying to connect dots, well, just limited amount of, of my understanding of the way life is, and history has been. But the only thing I can think of is the Ice Age. Right? I mean, an ice age. So and then what about these angels ascending? And when the angel shall ascend, the waters of the spring shall again undergo a change. Are we talking about the angels that are watching over and guarding and making sure that the fallen ones are not getting out of there? But when they ascend, they're going to get out of the way. And then apparently it's like there's an ice age hits that same area. I don't know. It's just kind of interesting. And it goes on. It says, then I heard from Holy, I'd like to hear from you. What are your thoughts? Because it's like changes. Like, how in the world does it go from this sulfur smelling fiery heat and lava flowing rivers and water that's probably bubbling and boiling and very hot, like hot springs, and then undergo a change where it freezes? How does that happen? Other than a great earthquake, right? Where the earth shifts, the earth closes up so that the surface isn't boiling like it is. And the next thing you know, climate has shifted because of the great things that are going on in the earth. And now it's ice. It's an ice age. It's glacier-like. I don't know. It's just some thoughts. I heard Holy Michael answering and saying, this judgment with which the angels shall be judged shall bear testimony against the kings, the princes, and those who possess the earth. For these waters of judgment shall be for their healing and for the death of their bodies. But they shall not perceive and believe that the waters will be changed and become a fire which shall blaze forever. I mean, here's another change. He's talking about another change. It's like these guys, so it's talking about a water that's it's almost like why is the judgment shall be for their healing and for the death of their bodies. It seems to be that when he's talking about these waters, he's talking about the great flood of Noah, and which heals the earth. I mean, that's what I'm thinking. It heals the earth, but it kills them, those that are still alive. But then but then they'll face the judgment. And so, and then also, and it says, but they shall not perceive and believe that the waters will be changed and become a fire which shall blaze forever. You have to think of it more of like think about it this way, because didn't we read back over in chapter 64 that it was Noah had a vision? This was the vision of Noah. These chapters are the vision of Noah. So it doesn't necessarily have to have a physical elements, doesn't have as if we're watching a movie of real things happening, as much as a vision of what he sees as shifts and changes and of between times and seasons and all of that. Noah's trying to explain a vision. I mean, how do you explain a vision where it's like the waters will be changed and become a fire and shall blaze forever? And I mean, how does water become like a fire that blazes? But in a vision, you can see it, right? So, yeah, it's interesting. After this, chapter 67, after this, he gave me the marks of all the secret things in the Sefer of my great-grandfather Enoch, and in the parables which had been given to him, inserting them for me among the words of the Sefer of parables. So, this is pretty cool. So it's almost like Enoch left his library for Noah. And then Michael gives him the marks of all the secret things in the Sefer. So it's like, like how you write in the margins? I mean, I write in the margins of my Bible. Like this one's I already have writings in this all over the place. But these marks, these things, those special things, when you get that download from the Holy Spirit, mark it in your Bible. It's like, I read this, is outstanding, and notate something about it, because when you come back and read it again, that little notation will flood your memory with what the Father was speaking to you about. So it says, so he gave me these marks of all the secret things in the Sefer of my great grandfather Enoch, and in the parables which have been given him, inserting them for me among the words of the Sefer of parables. So it's like he's like, okay, here I want you to put this in here and right there. Okay, they're open up the scroll. Right there, okay, here and here and here, write this and that. We're going to put this in here, and I just see that kind of going on here. And at that time, verse 2, the Holy Michael answered and said to Raphael, the power of the Ruach, capital letters Ruach, the power of the Holy Spirit, the power of the Ruach HaKodesh, hurries me away and impels me on. The severity of the judgment of the secret judgment of the angels, who is capable of endurance of that severe judgment which has taken place, had been made permanent without being melted at the sight of it. The severity. Ooh. You think about it, and it's such an intense heat that it melts everything. And yet this intense heat doesn't melt, because the place of imprisonment is so permanent. Again, holy Michael answered and said to holy Raphael. It's interesting that he's got now these angels have titles. It's not like a capital title, capital H, holy Michael, but a description, holy Michael, as to who they are in their character. But it says again, holy Michael, maybe even differentiating them from the fallen ones. Again, holy Michael answered and said to holy Raphael, who is there, whose heart is not softened by it, and whose mind is not troubled at this thing. Judgment is gone forth against them by those who have thus dragged them away. And that was when they stood in the presence of Yahweh Tsabaoth, Yahweh, Lord of hosts. In like manner, also holy Rakael said Raphael, they shall not be before the eye of Yahweh, since Yahweh Tsabaoth has been offended with them. For like lords, they have conducted themselves. For like lords, they've conducted themselves. In other words, they were operating out of their own self-will. Therefore, will he bring upon them a secret judgment forever and ever? A secret judgment? It's like, is there more judgment to a judgment, as if it's, or is it just that it's a judgment that we don't know, but it's still nonetheless severe? Forever and ever. For neither shall angel nor man receive a portion of it, but they alone shall receive their own judgment forever and ever. Neither shall angel nor man receive a portion of it, but they alone shall receive their own judgment forever and ever. I mean, you think about that. The betrayal, the treason that these fallen angels, these watchers, that in what they did against the Most High, that they get pronounced upon them even a different and more severe judgment than even a sinner, regular sinner. I mean, just one who just has rejected Yeshua. Think about that. That's pretty wild. Yeah. Chapter 68. See, we're moving right along. After this judgment, they shall be astonished and irritated, for it shall be exhibited to the inhabitants of the earth. Behold, the names of those angels, these are their names. The first of them is Samyaza, the second Arstikatha, the third Armen, the fourth Kakabael, the fifth Turel, the sixth Rumiel, the seventh Daniel, the eighth Kael, the ninth Barakel, the 10th Azazel, the 11th Armers, the 12th Batarial, the 13th Basa Sael, the 14th Ananel, the 15th Turiel, the 16th Simepisiel, the 17th Yitarel, the 18th Tumael, the 19th Turel, the 20th Rumel, the 21st Azazel. These are the chiefs of their angels and the names of the leaders of their hundreds and the leaders of their 50s and the leaders of their 10s. The name of the first is Yakun, the rebel. And it was he who seduced all the sons of the holy angels and causing them to descend on the earth, led astray the offspring of men. The name of the second is Kasabel, who appointed out evil counsel to the sons of the holy angels and induced them to corrupt their bodies by generating mankind. The name of the third is Gadriel. He discovered every stroke of death to the children of men. Whoa. He discovered every stroke of death to the children of men. Oh my goodness, that's not a good guy. These are these angels. Think about that. That's not a good guy. He discovered every stroke of death to the children of men. In other words, he had to experiment on a whole bunch of different men. What would cause them to die? If you hit them there, if you stabbed them there, if you dropped him on this part of his body, or, where are all these pressure points that can cause death, or what? That's wicked. That's every stroke of death to the children of men. Verse 7, he seduced Chava. He seduced Eve? Huh? And discovered to the children of men the instruments of death. He seduced Chava. It makes me think. We know about the serpent in the garden. He seduced Chava. That's how it says here. Chava, Chava. Eve. He seduced Eve and discovered to the children of men the instruments of death, the coat of mail. The instruments of death. And things that defend against the instruments of death, the coat of mail, the shield, the sword for slaughter, every instrument of death to the children of men. From his hand were derived to them who dwell upon the earth from that period forever. The name, wow. So this guy was responsible not only to figure out how to kill people, but how to protect the ones that needed protecting. So you can make death last longer or something. I don't know. But yeah, I'm telling you. So this is a god of war. Think about little g, god of war, little g. I don't know what that is equivalent to in Roman or Greek mythology, but the god of war. You think about Mars. Mars, I think it would be the equivalent to god of war. And in Greek mythology, I'm not quite. Ares? Is it Ares? It's the god of war. The name of the fourth is Penamua. He discovered to the children of men bitterness and sweetness, and pointed out to them every secret of their wisdom. Bitterness and sweetness. Are we talking about food, things to eat, or are we just talking about the sweet things of life and the bitter things of life? Oh, that's kind of wicked too. No. It says he taught men to understand writing and ink and paper. Therefore, numerous have been those who have gone astray from every period of the world, even to this day. For men were not born for this, thus with pen and with ink, to confirm their faith, since they were not created, except that, like the angels, they might remain righteous and pure. But if you think about this, he's like the one that is like the spirit behind, the type of entertainment, the movies, the writings, the books, the things that writing the stuff that takes people away from the Most High through fantasy and you can, the fantasy covers an entire spectrum of stuff, right? All sorts of difference. And numerous have been those who have gone astray from every period of the world, even to this day. So that people would read the writings and they would go astray. That is something else. Since they were not created, except that, like the angels, they might remain righteous and pure, nor would death, which destroys everything, have affected them. But by this, their knowledge, they perish. And by this also, power consumes. Okay. The name of the fifth, Kaziati. He discovered to the children of men every wicked stroke of the ruachot, and of devils. He discovered to the children of men. In other words, he led them to discover every wicked stroke of the spirits and of devils. Oh, the stroke to the embryo in the womb to diminish, the stroke to the spirit by the bite of the serpent, and the midday stroke of the offspring of the serpent, the name of which is Tabaet. This is the number of Kasbael, the principal part of the oath which El Elyon, dwelling in glory, revealed to the holy ones. Its name is Becca. He spoke to holy Michael. No, there's a differentiation why Noah is using holy Michael as opposed to these other angels. They were not holy. Yeah, it's spirit behind abortion. He spoke to Michael to discover to them the sacred name, that they might understand that secret name and thus remember the oath, and that those who pointed out every secret thing to the children of men might tremble at the name and oath. This is the power of that oath, for powerful it is and strong. He established this oath by by the instrumentality of the holy Michael. These are the secrets of this oath, and by it were they confirmed. Heaven was suspended by it before the world was made forever. Wow, there's something going on here. His name is Becca. He spoke to holy Michael to discover to them the sacred name, that they might understand the secret name and thus remember the oath. Well, there's some really powerful stuff. We're going to have to explore more of this next week, because I'm freelancing this one. I'm just because these are the pages when I turned the page, two were stuck together apparently, and so I'm just kind of freeforming it here, and we're just kind of going through it, and it's making me think about stuff. I got to study that out. This is really interesting because it's telling us about who they are. It's telling us about what their function was in the fall. Really, this is very. I hope you enjoyed tonight. It's time for us to go. So stay tuned. We'll be back next week, y'all willing. We'll look some more into this. We got to get some more information out about these angels. Maybe we'll get to the calendar next week too, but those fallen ones and what they did, that's very interesting. Well, until next time, I sure appreciate y'all being with me on a very busy night. Until next time, this is John Craig at Life of Worship Ministries. Shalom.
If you missed today's show or want to watch it again or want to tell someone where they can watch this episode, go to lamnetwork.tv, where you will find this show and all the other live Lamb show archives in the on-demand section of the website. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to tell someone about the Messianic Lamb Network. We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussions, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the lamnetwork.tv website. I'm Sandi Craig, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.